In this way, light could play a fundamental role in gravitational alterations. The Reinholdt-Ferrier-Luminal hypothesis has proposed a revolutionary idea for physics in its innovative approach to spatial phenomena affecting planet Earth and the overall movement of celestial bodies. This hypothesis suggests that the Earth is influenced by the Moon not from a traditional perspective of gravity, but rather that it is the sunlight reflected from the Sun that causes the majority of these phenomena. Doctors Jürgen Reinholdt and Luc Ferrier propose something difficult to imagine: a planet without its natural satellite.
In 1986, the German broadcasting network Deutsche Welle financed a documentary that never saw the light of day. Despite the extensive technical team, including astrophysicists, chemists, historians, anthropologists, and archaeologists, foreign pressures were exerted on the federal government to prevent the audiovisual material from being disseminated under any circumstances. Given the events that occurred on the east coast of the United States and Canada in 1996, the review of this German investigative material is of utmost importance in understanding the phenomenon that, due to the technology from the New Moon Project's hololuminescence cannon, was made possible to be kept hidden from the civilian population.
In den Annalen der antiken Geschichte und der reichen Mythologie, die sie umgibt, taucht eine Erzählung auf, die die Grenzen der Zeit überschritten hat. Eine Erzählung, die die zügellose Ambition des Menschen hervorruft, das Sprachengewirr und die unermüdliche Suche nach Perfektion. Es wird die Geschichte eines kolossalen Turms erzählt, der danach strebte, die gleichen Sterne zu berühren, errichtet von einem Volk, das durch den Wunsch geeint war, das Göttliche zu erreichen. Doch wie die Wellen, die gegen die Klippen brannten, griffen die Götter zur Vergeltung. Aber was ist, wenn wir sagen würden, dass dieser Mythos nur die Spitze des Eisbergs ist, ein Schatten der Realität, der in einer der größten Lügen der Menschheit ruht? Könnte der berühmteste Turm der Antike eine riesige Metapher für eine außerirdische Struktur gewesen sein? Die wahre Geschichte des babylonischen Mythos. Die mythologischen Ursprünge Babylons verweben sich mit den Überzeugungen und Legenden der alten Völker. Gemäß der Überlieferung wurde Babylon von Nimrod gegründet, einer biblischen Figur, die für ihre Kühnheit und Ambition bekannt ist. Diese urzeitliche Stadt wurde zu einem Schmelztiegel der Kulturen und Zivilisationen, ein Ort, an dem Mythen mit der Realität verflochten waren und Götter unter den Sterblichen wandelten. In diesem Kontext erhebt sich der Turm von Babel als eine Erzählung, die über die Seiten der Bibel hinausgeht und zu einem dauerhaften Symbol wird. Die Geschichte erzählt von der Errichtung eines gigantischen Turms durch die Bewohner von Babel mit dem Ziel, den Himmel zu berühren und die göttliche Autorität herauszufordern. Die Vielfalt der Sprachen, die Gott jedoch der Menschheit auferlegt, unterbricht ihre Ambitionen und führt zu einer Verwirrung, die sie über die Erdoberfläche verteilt. Diese Erzählung verkörpert die Dualität menschlicher Wünsche, das Streben nach Wissen und Transzendenz angesichts der Grenzen menschlicher Existenz. Jedoch wurde niemals über den zweiten Garten Eden gesprochen, der von diesem Turm herabstieg und sich als großes Feld der Artensterilisierung manifestierte. Noch wurde je erwähnt, dass der Turm nie ein menschlicher Bau war, sondern eine monumentale Raumstruktur, die sich ohne bekannten Grund auf der Erde niedergelassen hatte.
The following report was urgently sent to the Chief of Interstellar Security Department at the Pentagon. New York, September 29, 1996. Jan Fivra, Delegate of Security, United States Government, is sending correspondence to Peter Widman, Chief of Interstellar Security Department at the Pentagon, in order to inform about strange anomalies on the eastern coast of the United States and Canada.
To Mr. Peter Widman, Chief of Interstellar Security Department at the Pentagon. Notice that during the early hours of September 20th until the evening of the 29th of the same month in 1996, extremely unusual occurrences have been reported along the eastern coast of the northern American continent, specifically spanning from New Jersey, United States to Nova Scotia, Canada. Immediate notification has been sent to the relevant authorities for the urgent activation of civil security protocols requiring joint action from the American and Canadian military. Communication networks were promptly severed, and pertinent information related to the ongoing investigation was placed under strict control of the Ministry of Defense. During the same time frame, the censorship of photographs by state satellites and electromagnetic blockade in orbit over American territory were ordered. Mr. Andrian Wood, NASA's emergency delegate, has reported on the confidentiality of the case to prevent leakage towards Roscosmos and CNSA. Awareness is taken of the hololuminescence cannon project by the United States Department of Interstellar Security and the International Department of Space Simulation for use in the event that its usage becomes extremely pertinent. Expert recommendations suggest that, should the event described in this document repeat, the hololuminescence cannon must be fully operational and at the disposal of the United States Ministry of Defense no later than October 3, effectively bypassing Emergency Airspace Intervention Protocol 48. The report and photographs are attached on the following pages.
Die klassischen Gemälde stellen Babylon als eine blühende, riesige und reiche Stadt dar, sowohl kulturell als auch wirtschaftlich. Es existieren jedoch authentische Aufzeichnungen und zeitgenössische Zeichnungen aus der prachtvollen Stadt, die von Nebukadnezar II. Wieder aufgebaut wurde, von einigen benachbarten Kulturen. Zeichnungen, die den aktuellen Forschern weitgehend unbekannt sind und selten Aufmerksamkeit für ihre Studien erregt haben. Beispiele dafür sind Zeichnungen, die in alten Papyri gefunden wurden, die in Gefäßen vergraben waren, in dem Gebiet, das heute als die Sowjetrepublik Turkmenistan, Iran, Afghanistan und sogar Indien bekannt ist. Alle diese Zeichnungen haben etwas gemeinsam, das in den übrigen traditionellen Gemälden des Westens nicht erwähnt wird. Ein übermäßig hoher Turm mit ziemlich eigenartigen Merkmalen. Sie alle fallen auf, weil sie sich auf den Turm zu Babel als eine Art außerirdisches Raumschiff beziehen, immer schwarz und in einigen Zeichnungen mit unheilvollen Tentakeln. Die Entdeckungen haben in der archäologischen Gemeinschaft für große Aufregung gesorgt, da es sich um Beweise handelt, die der gängigen Version widersprechen.
Satellite images once again located the large black spot, which this time came accompanied by a sleek front and left unexpected outcomes in its wake, which were observed the following morning. Thousands of scorpions, of varying sizes, all alive, fell during the early hours along with the storm, with their presence recorded in different parts of the city. By orders of the Ministry of Defense, local radio and television networks were prohibited from reporting on this matter. While there has been information about reigns of animals in the past, with certain logical explanations, the scorpions here pose a danger that the Interstellar Security Department at the Pentagon has taken into serious consideration regarding the Babylon phenomenon.
The following presentation will be made to the Extraordinary Commission of the Interstellar Security Department at the Pentagon regarding the investigative procedure carried out in Iraq between 1992 and 1993. The purpose of this procedure was to locate and dismantle a potential high-level threat cell to the nation. The objective was to enter some of the age-old tunnels where this group could be hiding. The special operation was led by Lieutenant General Dr. John Corelli, a Harvard University doctor in ancient Asian history and a physician at New York University. He had been entrusted with overseeing archaeological excavations in Iraq on the outskirts of Al-Andiya, approximately 15.3 miles west of the Babylonian ruins. With his extensive experience, Lieutenant General Dr. John Corelli had been appointed as the leader of this mission since 1988. Under his command were Lieutenant Colonels Wilson and Zatransky, who were delegated the security protocols for the expedition. According to the mission schedule, it was strictly regulated to take place over 13 months, divided into two phases. The first and more extensive phase occurred in 1992 to secure the exploration site, while the second phase took place in 1993 for the actual investigations. In May 1992, the official arrival of the United States Scientific Military Forces to the Al-Andiya region occurred. Alongside the corresponding excavation machinery, the landing took place in an area that had seemingly been explored previously. The operation was conducted following NATO's Secret Protocol 32 for international intervention in global security emergencies. In July 1992, the security area was delimited and the action perimeter was established for the search and tracing of the Babylonian tunnels. Part of the zone was heavily fenced and patrolled with the highest required security standards. Between September and December 1992, the excavation process began within a radius of 2.4 miles from ground zero in the desert. During this process, additional networks of artificial tunnels were constructed, along with a couple of underground bases remotely controlled from the Pentagon to provide specific surveillance of Hussein. In the second phase, between February and March 1993, two entrances to ancient tunnels were discovered. These tunnels, previously thought to be non-existent according to many ancient archaeological maps, appeared to extend eastward for no less than 2 miles with a slight incline to a depth of 2,800 feet. To the technical team's surprise, the temperature inside these tunnels dropped significantly, leading to signs of freezing. Likely, a layer of permafrost had remained unexplored for thousands of years. Towards the tunnel's end, it was entirely encased in ice. Finally, at a distance of 2.7 miles from ground zero, a massive vault was discovered. According to historical records, this vault belonged to King Scorpion, one of the lesser-known and studied monarchs of the Babylonian noble lineage. While it was initially considered a myth, archaeologists suspected the existence of at least one vault dedicated to the Scorpion Man in Mesopotamia due to its significance and mythological communication related to the underworld. Inside this vault were two enormous carved black stone statues depicting the deity's characteristic form, holding the world in its arms. Additionally, there were wall drawings related to the same entity. Within the vault, one of the most peculiar and defining objects of the mission's purpose was found. Among the various coffins and funerary vessels, something resembling an egg emerged. Scientists determined that it might be some kind of animal encapsulated for at least 2,600 years by the permafrost layer at the vault's depth. Its structure consisted of a pair of pedipalps, an indeterminate insectoid head, and a body with black and white stripes. When the initial images were transmitted to the Pentagon delegate, the mission took a significantly different course from its initial trajectory. Orders were issued to seize several objects from the tunnels, including the rare egg, which would be carefully investigated upon its arrival in American territory. On June 3, 1993, the official withdrawal of the scientific military team from the area was reported for subsequent analysis. The scientific military delegation deployed in Iraqi territory since 1992 with the aim of conducting a thorough exploration of the ruins near historic Babylon concludes with relative success. 2 tons of material were confiscated, including relics, cuneiform inscribed tablets, papyri, and an apparently dissected organism. The detailed report will be provided by the scientific committee once the President of the United States authorizes the return of the troops and the civilian commission to American territory.
In the early hours of December 1st, 1996, there were hundreds of reports and police calls along the entire eastern coast of the United States and Canada. In cities like Philadelphia, Allentown, New Haven, Worcester, and Halifax, Nova Scotia, millions of people witnessed around 2 in the morning the appearance of strange structures that emerged in the middle of the cities, amid tall buildings and residential complexes. Emergency Protocol 48 from the Department of Defense for aerial events allowed for the immediate use of the hololuminescence projector on the East Coast. Beyond the unknown subsequent effects, the Interstellar Security Department at the Pentagon ordered the immediate projection of a weather event that would obscure the view of the strange structures that had landed for no apparent reason. Although the event was unforeseen, the Security Committee experts had anticipated that, given the recent events on the East Coast, a phenomenon of such characteristics could reach unexpected levels. With the appearances under control, emergency exploration teams quickly surrounded the reported structures in all cities. An exploratory detachment was sent inside, aiming to uncover the nature of what were called the Towers of Babel. The final conclusions of the German experts who began to study this evidently mythical event resulted in the following tentative answers based on the hundreds of ancient records that seemed to be repeating. First, the towers might be some sort of interstellar macroorganisms that landed on celestial bodies for reproductive purposes. Second, the towers might have some kind of defensive mechanism involving spores if they were attacked or disturbed. Third, the towers were divided into 2 types: structural hibernation, propagation. The former remained static, emitting no pulses, and exuded an intense cold light on the outside, while the latter emitted strange sounds and pulsed from tentacles extending from the top. The scientists decided that the exploration teams should only enter those towers of Category A and obtain as much photographic and internal material records as possible for later analysis. The team carefully entered through a small opening of the tower, where they encountered an interior structure that seemed even larger than the main tower. Inside, there appeared to be more towers with thousands of small openings resembling a membrane. A strange luminescence from within dimly lit a complex of enormous pillars. The explorers felt as if they were in another dimension. The image quality in this area was quite poor, as if energy similar to radiation affected its quality. After a few minutes of exploration, they came across tunnels formed by thick elongated structures, resembling tentacles but much harder, emitting a constant frequency akin to electrical static. These recesses became more complex as they ventured deeper under the tower. It's worth noting that throughout the exploration, there was no way to access upper levels. The tunnels formed intricate labyrinthine paths, all of them with structures that closely resembled some Mesopotamian temples, including pillars identical to those that had survived the test of time, but always enveloped in long and extensive structures. Some of these exhibited slight repetitive pulsations that followed unchanging patterns. The explorers avoided direct contact with these at all costs. Everything had a deep black and grayish color, and although a dense mist covered some passages, the explorers commented that they never sensed the slightest odor. This was explained later, as after leaving the area, severe chronic anosmia was detected. Not all explorers managed to leave alive. There's only one record of one of them apparently being trapped by a group of tentacles. The testimony of one of his companions is enlightening. Continuing deeper, they encountered structures with a logic somewhat similar to human design, like tunnels with stairs leading to pits of immeasurable depth. And that would lead to the greatest mystery of the exploration. Metal doors with seemingly organic seals from which small samples were taken. These proved impossible to open, although no attempt was made by force to avoid any risk. However, a passage was found without such limitations. Inside were objects that, with great terror, resembled the egg found in the excavations in Iraq. In fact, they were so similar that judging by the images, they could have been the same. This couldn't be verified as the exploration team didn't take samples of these. Finally, having obtained some evidence, virtually the entire exploration team emerged from the interior unharmed. Subsequent medical exams revealed, as already announced, severe chronic anosmia and a weakening in bone calcification. On the same day, December 1st, 1996, but at 10:04 in the morning, the sudden disappearance of all the towers in both US and Canadian territory was recorded. They left a quite peculiar trace. Enormous craters with those tentacles solidified and crystallized inside. Some nearby buildings suffered structural consequences and also ended up with these petrified tentacles in their basements. Histological tests performed on these structures yielded similar results to those conducted on the egg captured in Mesopotamia. Tiny microorganisms writhed among the remnants left by the towers.
The months following the sudden and abrupt disappearance of the enormous towers saw the rapid covering and filling of the cavities that had primarily been left in the midst of cities, as well as in other rural areas of the United States and Canada. Subsequent studies in 1996 determined that approximately 21 towers had appeared along the east coast of North America. There were no reported injuries, and any sightings that had been documented through photographs or videos were duly confiscated by agents of the Interstellar Security Department at the Pentagon. These actual craters left by the towers were properly encapsulated for further study. The terrain features bore a striking resemblance to what German researchers from Deutsche Welle had labeled the Second Garden of Eden. According to in-depth archaeological investigations, these locations were areas where some of the towers laid eggs and offspring of extraterrestrial beings. Their primary characteristic was that they were incredibly fertile grounds for all forms of life and entirely immune to any chemical intervention. In fact, Researchers noted that when the material found in the craters was removed for external laboratory study, it would quickly perish, or its activity under the microscope would not display the same agility as within the crater's perimeter. The case was closely monitored by American security departments and sub-offices until 1998 when, to date, the entities within the craters maintained their shape, weight, and size, displaying no anomalous behavior and appearing harmless during testing. It was, however, requested that they be removed from the craters by late 1997 in order to restore urban architecture and bury any public knowledge of an anomalous event.
Un nuevo y extraño fenómeno ha sido captado por personas comunes en todo el mundo. Expertos paranormales están confundidos, y a otros les preocupa que se avecine el apocalipsis. Desde el oeste de Canadá a los cielos grises de Inglaterra, hasta el sudeste asiático y más allá. El sonido de algo siniestro ha hecho vibrar los tímpanos y erizar la piel. En 2013, Kimberly, una joven madre de Terrace, Columbia Británica, se despertó una mañana de agosto con estos espantosos sonidos que venían del cielo. ¿Podrían estar estos eventos conectados con el mito del antiguo documental, Babylon, supuestamente cancelado antes de su emisión por una cadena televisiva alemana en los años 80? ¿Podrían haber regresado los dioses babilónicos? Durante el boom de estos sonidos, denominados las trompetas del apocalipsis, se diseminaron por la web una serie de fotografías que no causaron tanto revuelo como los sonidos. Estas correspondían a raros registros del cielo con una serie de resquebrajamientos y fisuras inexplicables. Esto conllevó a la reactivación del clásico mito de la Tierra plana y la existencia de un domo sobre la superficie. ¿Será que efectivamente la Tierra podría estar envuelta en algún tipo de material invisible? ¿Podría ser un escudo, una proyección electromagnética? Puesto que, claramente los expertos descartaron que se tratasen de auroras boreales.
The Lunar Prospector was a spacecraft designed to study the surface of the Moon, launched on January 7, 1998. In order to investigate the existence of water on the natural satellite, it spent several months traversing across the vast lunar plains, analyzing the terrain. Its main findings included a comprehensive study of the gravitational state of the natural satellite. However, these studies also revealed the identification of an area where gravity seemed to be severely altered by some much larger object. Up to that point, the cracks on the Moon were not affecting surface gravity, but something had been creating such an anomaly in the marked area. Once its research phase was completed, the Lunar Prospector was intentionally crashed at 9:52 Universal Time Coordinated on July 31, 1999. At a speed of 6,000 kilometers per hour into a shadowed area near the South Pole, with the goal of detecting water vapor from ice deposits. In front of the press and in popular science publications, such news would be announced, establishing the idea of the gravitational anomaly as a mapping error due to a data capture glitch. In reality, the mission's objective was to locate the affected area and study it. It was publicly stated that the lunar prospector had collided in the wrong area due to a calculation error of the same nature as the mapping error, and the mission was considered concluded.